See, we've been married 5 years.
6.
5, 6 years.
In the opening scene of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, John and Jane are sitting on the couch in front of the therapist, and John starts to introduce their situation to the therapist. Now, this isn't exactly a yeah right moment, but I had to throw this in the video because this is probably the best scene of the movie. This line about being married for 5 to 6 years is on point. They talk about how they first met in Bogota, Colombia. Yeah, right. You're telling me that two top assassins just happened to be in the same small town on the same day at the same hotel at the same time and are both able to give each other an alibi good enough for the police to buy? I don't think so. When has anybody ever had a full night of PG sex and woke up perfectly wrapped in the bedding? This guy had a full night of drinking, partying, and staying up to the wee hours of the morning and was able to wake up early, get dressed, find food, milk a goat, locate a newspaper after the city fled, and be back before she woke up. I'm all for believing spies being able to do some fantastic things, but this seems more like a miracle given the night they just had.
Oh, that's good.
I hope so. I had to milk a goat to get it.
Don't laugh. I feel you.
There's no way a super-secret, highly trained assassin would miss every shot on purpose to play the part, then get full of pride and hit every shot just to one-up John and possibly blow her cover. If this is how she acts on her off time, being unable to control her emotions, it makes me wonder how she ever avoided blowing her cover on missions.
Everybody.
5 or 6 years later.
Anybody calls, I'm in with the boss, okay?
That's right, got a call from the man. Big highline assignment, Steve, you know how it is.
And where do you think you're going?
Boss wants to see me.
Well, he sees you.
Now, I haven't seen any boss that would tell an employee that they want to see them, only to have the secretary pull this stunt. I don't know if there was some miscommunication going on between the boss and secretary, but if the boss did this on purpose, then this is some high-level douchebaggery going on. Bill Lumbergh wouldn't even have the stones to pull a stunt like this. Now, this is a nice, dare I say, upper-middle-class neighborhood, if not better. John mentioned that the gardener left the lawn mower out again, and I'm assuming they didn't hire little Timmy from next door to mow their lawn. And they certainly have plenty of money to hire a professional service since they're making millions in the assassin business. What lawn service company do you know of would need to borrow the Smith's lawn mower to mow the lawn? You always see landscaping trucks with trailers containing a riding lawn mower, push mowers, weed eaters, and various other tools of the trade. If this gardener has to borrow the Smith's tools and keeps leaving them out when he finishes working, they need to hire someone else. John looks antsy as he is waiting for Jane to leave. Her having to run out to save the server downtown is a last-minute plan since they have a party to go to later, and John even asks her if she's leaving, so this was obviously not part of their plans for the evening. So was he just not going to go on his mission if she didn't leave for hers? We find out later that they have to accept the mission. So was he waiting to see if she would leave tonight so he can accept it, or did he already accept the mission, and now he's hoping he can find a way to complete it?
Yes, some clown crashed a server in a law firm downtown and ended the world as they know it, so yes.
Apparently, this rich gentleman ordered an escort, but somehow, on short notice, her agency was able to replace the actual escort with her. I don't know how far in advance you need to make an appointment with an escort, but it still seems like Jane wouldn't have enough time to receive the info about him ordering an escort, plan and prepare for it, ditch the original escort, and make it downtown in the middle of the night from her neighborhood. And she still has this party with the neighbors to go to. These guys playing poker look like mobsters, drinking and each with guns. For some reason, this drunk guy busting in on them didn't have them pull their guns out to begin with. What if this was a raid by the police, or some rival cartel ready to take them out?
Put it in the pot. Oh, he's pulled something. He's in trouble now.
Yeah, right. Somehow these guys were waiting on Lucky to join the poker game, and they didn't even want John sitting in because he'd be there any moment. But John had enough time to build a relationship with them, drinking and playing several hands of cards before Lucky even showed up. Enough time has passed that he was able to get close enough to disarm each of them, even the guys on the opposite side of the table. Now that's talent. She decided her escape route would be to jump out of the window using her purse to drop 20 stories, holding on with one hand. Now the bodyguards checked her purse before she was allowed entry. They didn't find 200 feet of wire that would allow for an escape like this to happen.
See?
Who are these people that are having a party for the block so late? The Smiths had time to come home from work, which was probably about 5 by the time they got home, hang around the house until they went out to their missions, taxi drive time both ways. Then both get ready and come over to this party where they hung out for presumably a few more hours. Timeline is off. For a guy who has no time at home and doesn't mow his own lawn, he has a surprisingly large amount of tools in the tool shed. It's almost as if the previous owner left everything here. If he bought these for the appearance, what would the wife had said about the cost? They were already arguing about the cost and effort of the drapes before, but all these tools that are disorganized and dirty like he uses them on a weekly basis. How do you get this armory built into the oven? Is this something from IKEA? And why is she walking around the house with a gun and a knife? What would her response be if John walked in on her like he did when she was getting ready for the hooker and she didn't expect it? Again, it makes no sense why she would do something that could possibly blow her cover. From the outside of the building, John is at ground level. When he walks into the office area where the secretary is located, he has to walk downstairs to the main area. Then when he is in his private office, the view to the outside looks like he is on a higher floor, like he's in a proper office building. Is this one of those Penrose staircases that was added in and we're not supposed to notice?
What kind of tricks?
In a dream, you can cheat architecture into impossible shapes. That lets you create closed loops, like the Penrose steps, the infinite staircase. See?
This was made out to be an important mission for all involved. Jane was early enough to set up the perimeter and sit back to relax. Why was John so late to the party? He barely had enough time to take a whiz before the target arrived. Yeah, right. He clearly parked in the zone. Why did he not blow up if the zone was supposed to decimate everything in it to take out the target? I guess that stop, drop, and roll advice really does work. If the wine catching was instinct, did this never happen in the history of them being together? What is this? The litmus test for an assassin? Seems like this would have happened at some point in the last 5 or 6 years they've been married.
We need to talk!
Are you kidding me? Maybe nobody in the suburban neighborhood noticed Jane driving like a madman down the streets or John running through people's yards and breaking their fences. But there's no way this car drove off the road and flew over the cliffside like this and nobody heard anything. And are there no homes down below that the car might have crashed into? Do you really expect everyone to believe that this guy who still lives with his mother in this dump actually has the ingredients to make a martini? Let alone a cocktail shaker to prepare one. Or did John climb up the cliffside after the wreck to go home and gather these materials before going to Eddie's place? And what is John even doing here? This is not a move that looks good. Would they really need to rip up all of her stuff to find information about John? Wouldn't she have some sort of say or control about how they search? And what were they expecting to find? Couldn't they just ask Jane? And if he's a super spy like Jane, why would they think they could find anything real about him if this is a cover life for him? This whole shoot the arrow into the other building so you can escape thing looks good, but not very practical. First off, the amount of cable needed to stretch from one building to another on the other side of the street is at least 250 feet, and these guns don't look like they hold that much. And the cables, assuming it's steel cable, looks like it is 1/4 to 3/8 inch and would weigh between 26.8 and 63.5 pounds. If these adaptive crossbows specially made for this escape trick only weighed 10 pounds, these women would have to snatch it from the storage wall, walk it over to the window, and lift somewhere around 37 and 74 pounds above their heads. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it doesn't sound like an efficient escape method to me. Even one of those construction tubes that they can slide all the way to the ground level would be much more efficient than shooting an arrow to the building across the street. And after directly hitting the other building, precariously sliding across the steel cable, they would still have to land on the other building without hurting themselves or falling off like Jane almost did here.
On both of you? Eddie! Mom! We're on high alert here! I almost killed you right then! You do not even realize!
Again, not exactly a yeah right moment, but this is such a great scene it had to be included with the video. I mean, who hasn't tried to use this line in their real life?
Thought of a number of lines for this moment.
How did he know she would be here at this moment? Did this old man and woman that John was just looking and winking at not just see Jane pull a gun out of his ankle holster? And did she just throw the gun away? Where'd it go? Jane T-bones John's car in the driveway, causing quite a bit of damage, but her car looks in perfect condition. What kind of spy vehicle is this that it isn't even damaged during a head-on collision? The whole house was ransacked by Jane's company. I mean, they were literally cutting up furniture on the off chance he might have hidden something in the mattress and sewn it back up for later. But this single picture on the wall was left undisturbed where John had a stash of goodies. All this gunfire, and the cops were called only for a disturbance. This was World War III up in here, and the cops just left based on John and Jane's word that everything was okay. And why were the cops letting the neighbors knock on the door and ask questions anyway? Wouldn't the cops be in front? Weird. Again, another location John has guns and equipment right out in the open that Jane's crew didn't even check. This seems like they're cutting into the furniture and stuffed animals was more of them releasing their aggression on John's stuff and not actually looking for anything. As they run out of the basement, they go through the double doors that lead to the front of the house, which is amazing. When John was trying to get into the house the night before to fight Jane, the doors had a lock on it from the outside. Now it doesn't appear that there was a lock on it at all. How clueless are these neighbors? Last night they are asking about some loud noise like the Smiths were just having an argument. This morning there's even more gunfire, their house blows up, and not one neighbor is outside checking out what's going on. They are so not aware of what's going on that John and Jane can break into the Coleman's garage through the window and loudly steal their car. It would be impressive if the Smiths bought in this neighborhood because of the neighbor's lack of awareness. But we saw last night that his neighbor noticed John's car sticking out in the sidewalk and really wanted him to move it. But for some reason they missed all the gunfire and explosions. John taking the time to kick someone while they're on the ground never gets old.
I like it. Deal with it.
How did the agency find them? It looked like the only person who saw them after the house explosion was the guy outside of the neighbor's garage that John kicked. I'm assuming they didn't place trackers on all of the neighbors' cars in case the Smiths took one. This is some masterclass spycraft to pick up their trail this quickly. If all these guys are on the same side trying to catch the Smiths, then why are they treating Benjamin like crap? It's possible they just don't like him, but there's no need to change the TV channel to static. I mean, come on. It started off on the Weather Channel. They obviously planned to be waiting a long time hoping John and Jane would show up. Was the Weather Channel and static the only things all these guys wanted to hear until the action started? Who doesn't love a good elevator music scene? Yeah, right. I love a good action scene, but this is too much even for these two. They just had their Butch and Sundance moment. bodies and shell casings everywhere. There's no way John and Jane are able to take out however many dozens of agents that were sent to kill them. This is legitimately a Leslie Nielsen scene from the Naked Gun series. And here they are, back at couples therapy. Not exactly wrapping up the story for us. Did they kill all agents from both companies? I assume they didn't kill their friends Eddie and Jasmine. Are the agencies not after them anymore? Did John and Jane start their own agency? If no one is after them anymore, do they get to work together now? I'm so confused and have so many questions. If you liked the video and are ready to see more, please give it a like and subscribe for more.
Yep.